everybody. My name's Indy, and that gentleman right next to me, that is Jay Powell from Powell Group Consulting and others. Um, that's top secret. Welcome to Indie Game Business, right? Welcome to Indie Game Business. Today we've
Sorry,
got
I'm
Peter.
harassing our good friend Fedor on Discord right now.
Yeah, you must have harassed him. Oh, also, you guys unmute in Discord. But welcome to Indie Game Business. We've got Peter Kojesta from Exis Games, and he is talking about indie game funding, indie game publishing, and it's coming instead of going to a publisher, it's coming from a little bit of a different angle. So we're excited to have you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Did you say I should unmute in Discord?
Yeah, yes, unmute in Discord, please.
All right.
I think you are.
You're
now.
good. You're good.
So yeah, I had a brain fart this morning, and I was like, I know Peter. We had Peter on like 3 or 4 times years ago, which just says how long we've been doing this podcast at this point.
Years ago, like he's had 2 kids since then.
Yes,
it was 25 pounds ago, 1 beard and 2 kids. So we've come a long way.
It's been a while. So let's catch everybody up. Tell us how you got into the industry and walk us through your career up to this point.
Yeah, so I started back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. I was just doing contract work back then. And I think around the early 2000s, once I graduated college, I actually got a job at a local studio, Breakaway. Why is my camera blurry? Why does it wait to get blurry until we're like on air? Right? I don't know. Let me see. Does this work?
I think you might have some kind of connection issue because it's flipping in and out too. But don't worry about it. You're good.
Oh, I was turning it off so I could to try and like make it work better. I don't know. How's that?
You're good. Don't sweat it.
All right. So yeah, I went to work for Breakaway Games for a couple of years, and then after that, I founded Exis. And since 2003, we've been an outsourced and co-development studio. Worked on a bunch of projects over that time. Some of my favorites were XCOM, BioShock Infinite. We worked on a ton of the Civilization games. Most recently, we helped Oxide Games with Ara, History Untold, and the latest Delta Force game that came out. We got to do a lot of really cool stuff on that. So yeah, we've just been plugging away, helping indie and AA and AAA games come to market for about 22, 23 years almost.
So what spurred the idea for let's do our own game and then self-publish it? And we'll get into how it's going and all that sort of good stuff because you just launched like a week ago.
Yeah, we did. So we've always done side projects in order to kind of upgrade our own skills, right? So the team is always working on something for fun, but also, to improve their art skills, improve their programming skills, things like that. On a previous project, we wrote our own lighting engine, and we developed a new way to bake normal maps onto things that would prevent skewing and things like that. So it's a lot of experimentation, and it lets us kind of stay at the very cutting edge of what's being developed and how to create the best art and the best code and level design and all that stuff. So it's mostly for enrichment of the team. But everybody wants to make their own game, so I'm not going to deny that we love making our own projects, and we just released Dragonhold last week, which it was a huge undertaking. So that's been a lot of fun.
So was there a certain tipping point when you went, okay, we're not going to go to publishers on this, we're just going to self-publish?
No, I was perfectly fine to work with a publisher at any point. The problem was they're all horrible and impossible to deal with. I would say around 2023, late 23, there was a Chinese publisher who offered us $1 million for 20%. And they were probably the easiest to deal with out of all the other publishers that we were in talks with. The biggest problem I ran into was when we were pitching the game early on, and actually Rami Ismail has a whole article about this called pitch stalling, where the publishers would say, well, we like it a lot. What if it did this? We would really consider it then. And you spend a week, 2 weeks implementing the feature that they want they want to test, but they don't want to pay their internal teams to make a whole thing. And it kept happening over and over. Oh, we love this, but what about if it did this? What if it was like this? What if it was like that? And it kind of just got to the point where we're like, you know what, it's a no. Just say no from the get-go instead of wasting our time. So anytime, and this is probably critical for your viewers, if a publisher doesn't say, oh my God, we want this, let's figure out a way to sign it, everything else is a no. It doesn't matter how nice it sounds. It doesn't matter how pleasantly it's delivered to you. Everything else is a no. Anything that isn't a black and white yes is a no.
That is exactly the phrase of a good friend of mine who I have appropriated for this industry as well. It's like, if it's not a yes, it's a no, no matter what else is in there. Because there's that situation. And there's also the time where developers get the whole, we like it, but we'd like to see it a little further along.
Yeah, that's a no.
And it's just
what they want to see, they want it further along such that you've released it, sold 50 million copies, and then they can come in and be like, hey, what about we give you $4 and retroactively you pay us 10 million? That's how far along they want to see it when they say that.
So did you think about crowdfunding, or did you just go straight, we're going to bootstrap this through the industry, through the company?
Yeah, so we bootstrapped. And the reason is I don't think crowdfunding is that viable anymore. There's been too many high-profile failures. People are now using Kickstarter more as a marketing beat than any source of funding. You'll get a game that has a $4 million budget and they're putting up like a Kickstarter for $10,000 to show that they can, the market wants this. And unless you already have a fairly large community, I don't think that's very viable. I've seen some success on Patreon, but you have to capture an audience, and then they set up the monthly thing, and you could potentially fund a small project that way.
So that's interesting, because I know a couple of studios who have funded via Patreon, but they're also well established and they have a community and all that sort of stuff. If someone's going to go down that route, what are some of the perks that a developer could do when their game's still in, you have to have something month to month for Patreon folks. What do you do when you're still in development?
I'm not an expert on Patreon. I couldn't really say. I've mostly steered clear of crowdfunding. To me, being born in the 80s and kind of coming up through that business culture, like, you didn't present something to people until you had a viable product. That's not the way things work anymore. You kind of want to build with your audience. You want to get early validation, all these kind of things. But it's very difficult for me to say, like, here's a completely unfinished thing. And it's just what I kind of want to do with it. Why don't you give me a bunch of money? The closest I've been able to get myself to that is to release our game early access, and say, there's still a couple features that we want to add. There's still some bugs we want to fix. We would love your help. If you want to support us, do that.
So Q4 is always the point where we're like, oh my God, don't launch. But you launched in early November. I mean, it is early access, so it's not like it's a full-blown launch. But how did you go about planning when you were going to launch and what was going to be ready when you launched and all that sort of stuff?
So, I mean, we could have run a couple more play tests and launched in Q1. But for me, this wasn't necessarily about like, oh, let me launch and make a ton of money, right? Because we have our primary business, which is, the co-development. But what we've done with Dragonhold is build a very robust framework that we can use for future projects. AI, artificial intelligence for the characters, fighting and running around, all that. A very stable pipeline, all that sort of thing. So for us, it wasn't necessarily like we have to capitalize on the product and all that. And I thought it was really time to start getting some serious player feedback. And I think it's important to realize the feedback you get when someone gets your game for free is completely different than when they have to pay for it.
Yes,
And
let's
that's
talk
the
about
reason
that.
why I wanted to go into early access and not just do a bunch of free play tests, is because like I want you to put a little bit of money down so that you feel perfectly fine telling me off. And that's the kind of feedback that makes the game better. Not, oh yeah, it's really cool. I enjoyed it. Okay, what am I going to do with that? But guy spends a couple bucks and he says, I hope you die in a fire.
Well, it's still not totally constructive either.
No, I hope you die in a fire unless you change this one feature. And then we're like, oh,
Yeah.
why don't we take a quick look at that and see what what created such an impassioned, response. But for us, it was never like we have to sell 40 million units. It's not that important to us. We're building an amazing game. I'll tell you that. The game itself is just vast, and we're definitely punching above our weight. And honestly, that's what I like about us. That's what I like about my team. They're very scrappy. They work really hard, and they have a lot of fun doing it. So for us to release now, um, I think it was a great time to do it because we can gather that feedback, and going into next year when we do 1.0, it's going to be a very polished, very high quality product for people.
So, did you do any marketing or hype or anything before the early access launch, or did you just drop it on Steam and go
A
from there?
little bit, not much. Again, I wanted this thing to kind of slide under the radar a little bit. I know that's ridiculous to say these days, but when you release early access, that is your launch these days. But I really want to make an event of our 1.0. I want something phenomenal to come out of this early access period, and you can see it even on the reviews. Like the people have said, the devs are very responsive. They're interested to hear what you think. And we've just seen the review score continue to go up. And we've dropped like 3 or 4 patches already within just a week. So the team's working really hard. And I'm excited for where this is going to go. Marketing wise, we did a little bit along the way. We had like, I think 37,000 wish lists or something like that.
That's not bad, especially for
Yeah,
early access. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't bad. But I think we're in this for the long term. We want this game to be around for a while. We want to keep doing some content updates and things like that. And this is a game, and these are characters that I've wanted to um, get out into the world for a very long time. So it's personal for me.
But I remember you actually talking about this years ago
Hmm.
when you were on. So it's not totally surprising that you've got it out. What you've done is, I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, I tried to do it with my first company and failed. But going from outsourced co-development work to original IP is very hard because you don't have a guaranteed income stream like you do
Mhm.
on co-dev. How did you balance the two internally versus, we only have these people working on our contract work and then this group working on the original IP? How did you go about planning that and managing that?
Yeah, so we've always, since our inception, had an internal team dedicated to original works. That it's kind of like our R&D team, right? So there's a bit of separation, right? So we've always had people working on this stuff. It is extremely difficult. It has been, and it still is. It's going to continue to be difficult, especially when you're seeing the market kind of trending towards these friend slop, um, you know, couple month turnaround projects that so many publishers are enamored with now. And the public has become used to, due to playing Roblox and Fortnite all throughout their childhood. Those people are the people who are buying games now. Even the ESA says the average gamer is what, like 37, 38. But those people don't have a ton of time to play. So it's it's a very strange market, and it's shifted in a way that nobody could have anticipated, I think. But that's kind of the way the games market has always been, right? It's been a little hard to nail down.
A little bit of guesstimation going into absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So with you mentioned your R&D team and your internal team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say from an HR standpoint, but from a morale standpoint, is that something that you rotate people in and out of, or is it like, fuck you, you're doing contract work and the rest of you are doing something fun?
No, come on. Everybody has to have a little fun, right? Everyone needs recess. So yeah, that definitely, yeah, that's how you keep people, motivated and enjoying what they do. Like, yeah, you can't like you're off to the mines and you can go, sit in the ice cream store. Nah, we we rotate people in and out. But I mean, we have to, right? Because we want that institutional knowledge to kind of spread. And you can tell someone, but it's always better when they do it.
So is this the first one that you've all released yourselves?
This is the first big one we've released. We did a silly little game back in 2012 called Majestic 12 with our little potato men. It was a side scroll. It was like Contra meets Castle Crashers. And we released that just for giggles. But this is the first kind of large, full, title that we've released as a team.
So what have you picked up and learned along the way that is things you don't have to think about when you're doing co-dev work?
Well, I mean, when the client is you, that's it's a different scenario, right? Like most of the things I've learned have been on a business and marketing side, like the publishing side, which you don't really interact with that at all doing co-dev. The thing I like about co-dev is that you're exposed to a lot of different pipelines and you can learn from your client sometimes too. So if they have some new tech they want you to work with, that's kind of exciting. You can really sink your teeth into that. When you're developing things yourself, you quickly realize that the things that a publisher would do are now on you. And honestly, I think for the last couple of years, even if you had a publisher, the things that the publisher would do are on you. So that the primary lessons have been, about marketing, about running playtests, about QA, all these critical functions that were normally just outsourced to a pub before.
So is anything like completely surprised you? It's like, oh wait, we didn't think about this.
Man, I've got 2 kids and I've been doing this for almost 30 years. Nothing can surprise me now.
Nothing shocks me at this point.
Nah, an airplane could come through my window and I'd be like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit like right before we went live about how the industry has changed and it may not be going back to where it was. Let's talk about that for a few minutes. In the last like 3 or 4 years since we had you on the last time, what are you seeing in how the industry's changed? What sort of warning signs can we throw out there to new indie devs that are still finding their way?
Yeah. So the interesting thing was when, the pandemic happened, there was this gigantic explosion in the industry and, lots of people getting hired, lots of new studios being funded through venture capital. Publishers were signing left and right, just a lot of new people in the industry. Everybody knew that when the pandemic was over, it was going to go back to the way it was, but nobody acted like it. And that's why, since then, you've been seeing this kind of steady, nonstop series of layoffs at every level. And I think the first big layoff came from Embracer, right? When Embracer said, oh, we're closing a bunch of studios. Like that was when the bell got hit, right? Because you could hear that sound everywhere. And then it's just like dominoes that they started to lay people off left and right. And then everyone said, well, let's the motto at GDC and Gamescom and all the other ones became survive till 25. And well, here's 25. It's the end of 25. What's happened? Nothing. Nothing has changed. Everyone is sitting around waiting for some sort of renewal that is not coming. This is the way the industry now. This is the way things are. You have to learn to live in the new normal. This is the new normal. And honestly, it's more brutal than before the pandemic. Now, when you want to pitch a project, you need some sort of validation, right? I remember when I first started in the industry, if you could show any kind of technical ability, you could get something signed with a design doc, right? And then that became, well, we want to see a demo, and then that became, well, we want to see a vertical, and then that became, well, we want to see a vertical with market validation, and now it's basically like, we want a vertical, we want a finished game, we want you to have a large community, the blood of your firstborn, perform these pagan rites, and like I think a lot of publishers are shooting themselves in the foot with this. I think it's going to come back to bite them, especially when they've forced so many indies to learn how to do publishing. They've been creating their own competition. And I tell you, the number one thing I would tell any small indie or anyone looking to do this is to treat it like a job.
Mm-hmm.
Treat it like a business. The biggest problem I had personally, and I think so many people have, is magical thinking, right? Things won't just work out. You need to make them work out. You need to create the opportunities. They're not just going to fall into your lap. Even if they do fall into your lap once or twice, there's no guarantee it's coming the third time. I would say if I could do it all over again, when that publisher offered me $1 million, I'd be like, yep, let's do it. Sounds good. You guys take on the risk. But the magical thinking was, nah, we'll just put it out and sell 40 bajillion units, and none of that is real. Like, I think magical thinking gets in the way of a lot of people doing the necessary things they need to do, like marketing, like QA, like localization, like doing the research to see if people even want the game you're making. These are the critical steps in 2025, 2026 for having a successful product. And it is a product. The Dragonhold is sacred to me. It's not sacred to anybody else. To them, it's just another game in the 18,000 games that came out last year. And here's the thing. That's not even the number you need to be aware of, right? It was 18,000 last year, but there was 14,000 the year before and 12,000 the year before that. And, I think there was a study showing like people are typically playing 6-year-old games at this point.
That would be mostly true for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm so far behind on what I'm playing that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole landscape has changed. People, when we were coming up, people would say, I'm a gamer or I'm not a gamer. But now they say, I play Roblox, I play Fortnite. Those games are black holes. They're sucking players in, and those ecosystems now have games within them. UEFN and Roblox giving you the opportunity to make your own games. People go in there and they don't necessarily have to leave.
Yeah.
Right. So those are everyone's competition, not just, I'm making an RTS, so I guess RTSs are my competition. That's not the case. It hasn't been for a very long time, especially with these, these robust platforms and all the tools associated with them.
That's part of why we've been doing indie game business for so long, is because we've been telling folks, yes, if you want a publisher, go get it, but don't think you're going to get it. You need to be prepared to do all of this stuff yourself. And I still believe that. We're getting to the point now that even if we had, tons and tons and tons of PC console publishers, I don't think there's enough publishers to cover the good games that are on the way. And so you're seeing teams that could have success if they knew how to self-publish failing, because that magical thinking, that's a fantastic term for it. Just like, oh, well, we're going to do this and it's going to be awesome and we're going to get a publisher.
Yeah, I want to go and like dropkick Kevin Costner with the "if you build it, they will come." Like, no, no one's coming.
Well, to be fair, the people that came were dead. So
right, yeah,
there's that aspect of it.
right. I guess that's fair.
All right, we got a question from YouTube. Future Corpse, as we're talking about the death of the industry. When would be the best time to hire a lawyer for a new game studio or agency, assuming that our budget is near zero for now and we know little to nothing about legal stuff?
Cool. I would say you should all go become plumbers. I'm just kidding. No, a lot of it depends on where you are, of course, but a lot of the baseline legal stuff you can do yourself. You can set up an LLC through your state's websites. Typically, it's like $60-$70. If you have IP that you want to trademark, you can do that through the USPTO website. It's like $330 per class. I would say anything you can do yourself, do if you have zero budget. But if you're at the point of getting a publishing deal, get a lawyer, and get a lawyer. But man, maybe get two lawyers, right? Get one lawyer to look over what the other lawyer does.
Don't use Chat GPT on your contract. Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. And so here's the thing: we actually, and I'll tell you from experience, we got a lawyer on a publishing deal back in the day. You know, I didn't know enough about it to understand really what was in the documentation, and I depended on the lawyer to kind of translate it for me. And big name lawyer in the entertainment and the game industry. And when it was all said and done, some months later, the publisher had not done anything they said they were going to do, so they were in breach. And I sent them the letter saying, "Hey, listen, you guys are in breach. Are you going to cure?" And they basically said no. But if you want your IP back, look at subsection whatever, and give us our $150,000 so you can have your IP. Had I asked another lawyer to look that over, it may have yielded different results. So, you need to make sure you've got some eyes on whatever kind of publishing deal you're looking at. Up until that point, if you're looking to hire people, if you're looking to just set up your company, all these things you can do yourself. Just spend a little time researching. Don't ask ChatGPT, but it can give you things to look up. Make sure you're looking at primary sources to get this kind of information.
That's not a word I've heard in since college.
Primary sources. Yeah.
Oh, flashback right there. Because you're right. I mean, ChatGPT can say, "Hey, you need to do these things," but don't let it do it. And it's not. I mean, I can say, yes, we have a lawyer legal team now. Part of that's because the alt-right decided to come after me last year. But the other side of it is, it's like, if you're here in the States, it's like I set up my first company with LegalZoom. And it's like very basic, runs you through everything you need to know. I did use an attorney to do the IndieGameBusiness registered trademark, but that's primarily because I didn't want to fuck with it. And
I've gotten good at those. I've filed so many trademarks, and
I'm not trying to go that route.
No, different. Oh, here's the thing: if you do end up doing a trademark, you're going to want class 009, not class 28. Just remember that.
Everybody remember that. You're going to take one thing away from this show. It's that the class, the trademark, you have to figure out. All right, hold on. We got questions coming in left and right here.
Let's do it.
All right. For the Discord, in tech, there's a really vibrant and active angel investor community in various tech hubs around the world. Is there something similar for games? There used to be, like industry veterans who want to support up and coming work. How do we tap into it and try to pitch there? Peter, I'm going to let you answer, and then I'm
just going to shake my head. I don't. Okay, so there are some accelerators. Europe is a great place for what you're asking.
Yeah, it is. South America too.
Yeah, in the U.S., not so much. That's just all there is to it. There's a lot of that going on in other places.
So my answer would be, if you're a part of the indie game business community and you get our newsletter, you might have seen the announcement last week before, on the fact that we're going to start doing a little bit of this. And I mean a little bit. I am not going out and raising angel funding. I am not going out and rating VC.
Rest in peace, your inbox.
Yes. Tom, can you put the game submission link in chat? And if you don't know it, I can find it in a minute. But yeah, these things do exist, but they are very, very rare. And, you have to realize you're competing with the rest of the world on this stuff. And so it is very tough to do. We're going to be doing a little bit of it ethically. But it's hard. If you're much better off looking into like grants and accelerator programs in your home country. And like Peter said, in the US, virtually none. There are specific states that have tax incentives, but ideally you're looking at Europe, South America, Canada, Germany, all of that sort of stuff. It's very tough.
Saudi Arabia, you said that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, if you're willing to move there, there's some opportunities.
Well, and that's a lot. Like Malta has a program now, if you're willing to move to Malta. So yeah, they do exist in some way, shape, and form, but they all have catches.
This is not, if again, I'm only speaking for the US. This is not the way to get your game to market. There's very little investment in art right now. So just be aware that if you're going to walk down that path, you're probably going to walk by yourself.
All right, so bouncing back to Future Corps. Yes, the thing is, I'm Peruvian, and we don't really have a lot of video game lawyers, and we're kind of afraid that a foreign lawyer would not fully grasp our country's laws and how. Yes, do not get a U.S. lawyer for Peru. Do not even get a Brazilian lawyer for Peru. If there aren't any good game industry lawyers, what would you say, Peter? Like an IP lawyer?
IP lawyer. There has to be some sort of entertainment industry in your country. Seek those lawyers out, even if they don't grasp every nuance of the game industry. If you're going to sign with a publisher that's in the States and Canada, something like that, your lawyer can collaborate with another lawyer that's in another country to kind of get up to speed on that, knowing your local country's laws very well also.
And I know they have to exist because a friend of mine that I worked with in Ecuador, his wife is literally an Ecuadorian IP lawyer. So these things exist. From Discord, you mentioned that the industry is shrinking in the post-COVID economy. Is that affecting co-development opportunities? Yes. Is there any advice you would have for a new indie studio looking to do co-development work, or is it better to focus on funding for our original IPs? Ooh.
Well, the industry isn't shrinking dollar-wise. That's still, slow growth like it's always been. It's shrinking because the publishers are not willing to give you any of that money. It has affected co-development work. You're seeing a lot of people leaning on the larger co-dev firms, and they're paying more for it. But at the same time, they're looking for even cheaper labor in primarily Latin America now. First it was India, then it was China, and now Latin America is the hot flavor. Even Eastern European. And again, depending on where you are, your rates probably are not going to be able to touch those. So if you don't have some sort of, ace in the hole for why anyone would hire you over, talent that's elsewhere that might already have a couple projects, then, you're going to be working extra hard. You're going to have to demonstrate some sort of value that only you can bring to the table.
We used to actually offer this as a service from the consulting side. So we helped developers find co-development work, and we stopped doing it after COVID because we saw the same thing. It was absolutely, no matter how much work we put into it, it's very hard. The reason being, during COVID, the publishers couldn't go and vet a lot of these studios like they'd like to do. Can't travel, obviously. And so what they did was they basically retreated into a little bunker and said, we're only working with the studios that we know we're not trying stuff out. There's still a lot of co-dev out there. But like Peter said, it's hard to get it as a new studio because, and again, you're competing against the entire world. But yeah, you really, really have to prove yourself before, you know, you can get some of that work. But
Yeah.
one of the ways that we used to do this for indie devs who don't have a track record, if you go to a publisher and say, look, here's this game I'm developing, there are situations that come out of that where they go, oh, that looks cool and all, but it also looks like you could do this for us. So it's just another way of getting in the front door and showing them that, hey, you're not
demonstrate value.
Yep. Exactly.
But I can't recommend anybody use an agent, honestly, at this point. There's not enough work, and the agent, like, there's some who work purely on commission. If they're non-exclusive, sure, but you know, what effort are they going to put in? And then there's the ones that you pay monthly, and you're just not going to get that money back.
That is exactly why we stopped doing it, because you know, we were one of the ones that worked on a retainer basis.
Yeah.
And you know, we would go and just absolutely hammer all of our contacts and all these companies like, hey, this is the group that we have. You need anything? And the developers looking at us like, we're paying you every month and we're not getting anything. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's, you know,
it wasn't Jay's fault. They're not buying. It's not Jay's fault.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I love our community here. The questions are coming in so fast that I don't have to think anymore. This is like one of my favorite shows. All right. Do you feel that there's going to be a talent void, considering that less and less interns and juniors are able to join studios where the old employees retire? Is there a hole left over? Oh my God,
no.
Y'all are doing good questions today too.
Yeah,
all right.
And I'll tell you why no, because these people are going to learn that stuff by themselves anyway. They're not going to have the institutional knowledge that they would have had they joined a studio, but they're going to gain the technical knowledge. And all these studios that are setting themselves up for failure in the future by, you know, not kind of having like a nice training program internally, they're the ones that are going to suffer. But people are learning these skills. Like, I learned how to do 3D modeling on my own. You know, there's so many courses online now that didn't exist. I used to just press buttons to, you know, see when the 3D program would crash. But there's just so many courses that'll take someone from A to Z. And by the time you're done taking a couple of these, you're like a grandmaster. The studios that are going to benefit from that are the ones that take you and say, okay, I know you know how to do things, but here's how to do things here. So I don't think there's necessarily going to be a lot of talent disappearing, because these are skills that people teach themselves regardless. It's enjoyable to do. People are always going to want to become programmers. People are always going to want to become artists. And I don't think that talent is going to disappear. It's senior talent that's being pushed out of the industry right now. There's going to be kind of like a lull in that for a little while. But you're going to see a lot of the people that they would bring on as juniors are still out there. They still have the talent. And what they can't hire, they'll just use AI to do. And the AI is going to keep getting better and better and better until you can't tell anymore.
So what would you say for someone that's coming out of school? What does the road to a job in the industry look like?
Well, that's the weird thing, right? I think this was one of the reasons you asked the first question you always ask in these interviews, right? There is no road. It's just a freaking forest. It's a dense forest that you have to hack your way through. And it's different for everybody. So I don't know what, like, when I started doing this, there were no game development schools. And for the longest time, I would say, why are you people paying money for this? You can learn this all on your own. And I think they made so many promises of possible jobs and all that, you know, we had 1 million people coming out they now have game design degrees and, you know, competing for 1,000 jobs. So I don't know. There's no one clear path, especially these days when I don't think anybody knows where the hell they're going.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there.
Yeah.
So
learn a hard skill. That's all I got to say. Learn a hard skill.
But yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I have a son that's going to be getting in high school next year. And my whole thing is, look, you need to learn something. You know, not going to college is not really an option anymore. But if you want to go to college and learn to be a plumber, at least where I live, I have you joked about everybody should become plumbers. A good
Oh, it
friend
wasn't
of
a
mine
joke. Those jobs are
runs.
needed.
Yes, he makes more money than I do, and
Yep.
it's like
Who was it that recently said the jobs are not white collar and blue collar? They're sitting or standing, and the sitting jobs are slowly
I
going
didn't hear
away.
that. But yeah, that's you can where I live, it takes like if you have a plumbing problem, it's going to be 2 or 3 months. So yeah, be a plumber. But yeah, learn a hard skill.
That's it. And here's the thing: I still can't recommend anybody go to a game school. You do not need a degree in game design. You know, if you go to a traditional college, get a degree in mathematics, physics, computer science, you're going to have so many options available to you, and you can learn everything you want to learn about game development on the side for free. You do not need to rack up $80,000 in student debt to learn that.
And they don't teach you production or business or marketing.
Right.
At least the vast majority of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
From YouTube, do you think a unique game idea can be stolen on Kickstarter?
No, because you don't have a unique game idea.
Hard as it is to say, hard as it is to hear, yes.
And here's the thing: ideas mean nothing. Execution is what matters.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna have to go back. We ran out of questions, so now I got to go back to like.
Oh, really?
Shit, yeah. Y'all keep asking questions because this is making my life a whole lot easier. What would you do? I mean, if you had to go back a few months and change some of the stuff that you did rolling up to the launch of Dragonborn, what would you change?
So Dragonhold could have benefited from a lot more marketing, right? A lot more marketing and a lot more testing. I was surprised actually at the number of bugs that the first wave of people were finding. Like I was shocked by some of this stuff. We thought we were, testing fairly robustly internally, but apparently we weren't. More testing. And we're talking a couple months, right? Because if we go back a couple years, I would have done a lot of things differently. But yeah, I'd say more testing and more marketing. You can never go wrong with more testing and more marketing, ever.
If it's bad marketing or marketing in the wrong areas, you can.
Bad marketing. What even is that?
Well, not bad marketing. Take that back. God, bad marketing turned out great. But if you're focusing your marketing efforts on the wrong things, it can absolutely. It's like 10 years ago, you wanted to run ads. Now, you've got to be doing a lot of outreach to streamers and
influencers,
Reddit and everything else. It's constantly evolving. So you can have mismanaged marketing that goes bad.
And I can't recommend spending a ton of money to like hire a PR firm to get you on IGN, because that's okay. Sure, it'll do something. But that's not for you, right? That's for EA. That's for Activision. Like those things are not going to move the needle for you.
Where did you see the most traction?
Reddit posts were a great way to get people into the game. Seeing streamers play it got a lot of people into the game. And we're not talking about like a streamer with 4 million followers. They'll get you a bunch of wish lists of people who aren't really that interested. But like streamers with like a couple thousand or a couple hundred, their audiences are engaged with what that streamer is doing. So they're often going to be the best bet if you want to convert that wish list into a sale down the line.
So if you were to go back years ago, what would you change?
We're taking that sweet Chinese money. No, I would.
The honesty no one wants to hear.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you, I would have done more early market validation, and I would not have listened to a single thing a publisher ever told me. Directly interacting with publishers delayed my game by 2 years and ruined the design for that entire period. Pick your design, and if they want you to change it before they've given you a ton of money, say no and move on. Well, they've already said no. Right. So just accept that they said no and move on. So for me, it would have been more early validation, a lot more marketing, make a smaller scope project. I did none of those. I did the complete opposite of every one of those things.
Did everything that we always tell people never to do. And still got out there. But there was somebody I was talking to, I think it was when I was at GammaCon, and they literally as a studio did everything we sit and say, do not do this, and success out of it. So
it happens.
Yeah. Well, it also tells you how much we know.
This industry is a lottery ticket. It's a lightning strike. There is no formula. You cannot sit here and, I've seen so many of these friend slop games come out, and someone says, "Oh, well, quick, let me just make one of those."
Explain to people what that is.
It's these these games that are centered around what is it? Being able to speak to friends in proximity chat, and a small co-op thing like Peak, or all the games of that nature. And I don't use that term in a derogatory way. That's just kind of what people in the industry have started calling that genre, is just friend slop.
So from Discord, there seems to be a pretty big ecosystem of for-hire video game services. Example, someone to help you find streamers for your game and coordinate that, QA services, etc. Are there any of these outside consulting services that an indie should think about early?
No, not early. I mean, if you don't want to do the work yourself, you could consult with them. I don't know that they'll benefit you if you're early, right? Like, if you want to, the best thing you can do for yourself is validate your product early with the customer. And you don't need anyone in between you and the customer, right? You don't need to localize your game first thing. You don't need a ton of art before you have systems in place. If you want to meet with someone to determine the strategy for launching a game, that's one thing, but you still have to have at least an idea of what your game is. And even if you have the greatest strategy in the world, but your game is not a fit for the market, it doesn't matter. So I wouldn't say early. A lot of those services are wonderful towards the end or in the middle. I was just talking about marketing and QA being something you can never get enough of. So you can do that for sure. Art is a good thing to outsource if it's atomic. If you have discrete things you want to get done. We do a lot of level design and engineering for our clients, and that's mostly in the production phase. There are places to help you with pre-production, but that's concepting and all that sort of stuff. I don't know that you need a lot of that as an indie. I don't know that you need to invest that money. If you're time rich and money poor, spend the time. If you're money rich and time poor, spend the money.
That's good advice, Peter. It's almost like you've done this before.
Just once.
I mean, I agree. If you're, especially for indie devs where money is tight, if you do anything with those services at that point, just sit down and say, okay, what do I need to do to best set up a relationship with you, be it QA testing, whatever it is, down the road, and start from there. But no, you don't need to.
And if you want to hire an art director to sit with you for a week and say, this is the style, this could be the style of your game, and help you develop some of that stuff, that's fine. But you don't need to put someone on payroll or put 20-30 grand down at a company for a retainer or anything. You don't need to do any of that. You probably don't need to do any of that, period, but definitely not at the beginning.
All right, next one up from YouTube. I'm currently attempting to build a gaming SaaS platform to fund my studio. That was my background before going into professional game development. Is that a viable plan, or is the industry too money tight?
You're seeing a lot more investment go into tools and platforms. So depends on what it is. You might be able to actually raise funding for your tool, and that could serve as the backbone to your studio. I've seen a couple of what is it? There are these AI assistants for Unreal that are coming out. One of them is Aura. Another one is called Sage. There's a lot of money going towards that sort of product to make development easier. And this is a very old story, right? If there's gold out there, sell shovels. And it seems to me like that's what you're doing. So it's not a bad strategy.
All right. So what is the plan with Dragonborn from here on out?
Dragonhold.
Where did I get Dragonborn? That's a movie, isn't it?
Dragonhold. Isn't that from Skyrim? The Dragonborn.
Oh, that's yeah. Well, I've only got a few thousand hours in that game.
I'd use that as my title, but I don't want to get sued.
You would from Bethesda. That's like.
I mean, they're not. I've been to their bunker, so maybe I could. Yeah, they used to have a bunker in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm in Maryland, and I got to visit once, and I had their fun little square pizzas. So they had like a full kitchen in the bunker. It's kind of nice.
And square pizzas
with chefs and everything. Yeah.
So going here on out, you've been launched for what, 11 days or something at this point?
I tell you, the response has been amazing. We've got people who've got like 40 hours in the game already, and I'm just blown away.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm like, man, you've done like this is a full-time job.
You want a job?
Yeah, seriously. They've helped us identify problems, workflow issues, play flow issues. For me, it's work. For them, it's play, right? But like the audience has just given us so much amazing feedback that we've been able to improve the game just dramatically over these 11 days. And that's just going to continue all the way up until 1.0.
So here's the question then, because we've only got time for like one or two more questions, and then I have to go embarrass my son at his science fair project presentation. How do you filter, sort? How do you absorb that information when it's coming in, all the feedback from the community? Because God knows it's going to be all over the board. How do you focus it?
So there's a lot of factors. Like it becomes a gut feeling, honestly, when you've been doing it as long as I have. There's just a lot of micro things that you unconsciously pick up on. But you're going to want to filter for possibility, for time. You're going to want to filter for taste. If someone wants you to do X and it's just because they feel like that's something they enjoy, that might not necessarily work for your product. You got to get a feel for it. Some suggestions are phenomenal. One of the cool suggestions that we got was to make one of the in-game bosses you fight, a flyable dragon after you've beaten him a certain number of times. I never would have thought of that. I was just like, oh, there's this big bad dragon dude you got to fight. But they're like, well, I mean, this is a game about riding dragons, right? Why don't you let us tame him after we beat him a couple times? And I was like, crap, that's awesome. So you're gonna get stuff like that from the community, and then just act on it. Some of it's just gonna get some gold. Sometimes you're gonna get a lot of crap, but you're gonna get some gold too.
All right, so this is your chance, even though we've been plugging the entire time. This is your chance to plug what you want to plug. Promote. Dan, Tom, can we get the link to the Steam page back up there again?
Yeah, so we're going to be part of the OTK thing on Steam in like a couple days. I think it starts tomorrow. But yeah, pick up Dragonhold. Like join the community. Hop on our Discord. We're listening. We're not quitting. We're making this thing better. And everybody loves dragon riding, man. You get to fly dragons around. That's awesome. That's just awesome. If you like Game of Thrones, if you like, How to Train Your Dragon, any of that stuff, hop in. We'd love to hear from you.
Do you have lances that you give the other dragon riders so we can, have dragon lance back?
No, listen to this. You can actually transform midair from dragon to human back and forth, dive down on top of another guy and stab him in the head as you're diving.
All right. So
yeah. Awesome. So I saw, and I posted it earlier, that there was somebody that gave a not positive review at 1.6 hours, but then they had another 8 hours of playtime after that.
Yeah.
So I love those people. This game sucks, and I know because I've spent 200 hours in it.
I am very appreciative of the people who are leaving negative reviews that have some substance to them, because then we can improve it. I'm also very appreciative of everyone on our Discord because they've been helping us find bugs, telling us what works, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And, we really want to make this game phenomenal for everybody. And I think it takes community feedback these days to achieve that. You're going to have a bumpy launch sometimes, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're willing to listen and work with your audience, I think you can achieve great results. And that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Positive reviews are great, but there's more value in a really detailed negative one.
Yeah, but also you got to remember if it gets too unbalanced on the negative, then it's going to kill your sales. So you got to find a nice balance. Don't just go to my page and leave a bunch of negative reviews.
You need to hit 70.
You can just come tell me if like you crashed after 40 hours and you want to punch me in the face. That's fine. I can make it right.
That's not helpful. That's not
helpful.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. It's good seeing you again. Congrats on the 2 kids. That's amazing and makes me feel like we haven't spoken in a very, very long time for that reason.
Yeah. Jay, actually, I'll tell you what, since last time I was here and I had that beard, I saw you at GDC. I sat right across from you and I was like, hey, Jay, how are you? And you're like, I'm okay, man. I'm okay. You were so dead tired. I could tell you like stumbled over and plopped down and you didn't even recognize me because I'd shaved and I looked like a totally different person. So I totally believe the Superman with glasses thing.
I will not be doing that this year because I'm not going to GDC.
Yeah, me neither.
That's what you said last year. And
I know, but I'm serious this time.
Isn't it called like Friends for All or something now? Justice Friends or something is the new name of GDC.
I spent all my event money so I don't have to go to GDC.
That's exactly what I did. I went to Gamescom Asia, got 3 deals out of it, and Bangkok is an awesome place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was my GDC budget. All right, we're not going to be back next week because it's Thanksgiving here in the States. Unlike you Canadians that do it a month earlier than we do, we'll be gorging our face and then back the following week. What else we got, Dan?
No, that's it. We've been talking about funding and publishers and funding and publishers. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you get a list of both of those things. We are going to be back December 10th. For our deep dive conference.
Yes.
And that's going to be awesome.
Completely free.
Yeah.
And if anyone from the Discord has questions that I didn't get a chance to answer, hit me up. I'm on Discord, I'm happy to help.
Yes, that's awesome. And thank you. Thank you. And if you don't know what our Discord is, discord.gg/IndieGameBusiness. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in from Discord. Thank you everyone that's tuned in from LinkedIn, YouTube, and not Facebook, but Twitch. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.